We are live.
Okay, we are live.
Thank you.
Just me.
We start here right now.
Yep.
Hi,
Okay.
hello. Okay. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and start the council study session for Tuesday, March 28th, 2023 at 6 o'clock. Go ahead and go on to 2, old business. Is Bill on yet, Muddy?
He's
I don't
not,
see him.
no, not yet.
Does it show him coming on? Muddy, are you there?
She's coming over here.
Oh, is she? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and go on to old business A, discussion of approval of resolution 2023-10, a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign an employment agreement with Ian Alexander for the position of code enforcer, which would be seasonal. That is on page 10 through 11. So we went ahead and we did the agreement here. You asked, and I'm sorry about that. Okay, so I don't know if you all had a chance to look at it, and we did take all the things that were not supposed to be on their top. So this is just would be 6 months, and at $17.50 per hour, 35 hours per week. He'd be doing the same hours as our public works seasonal workers are right now. And he would be doing code enforcing / dog catching is what we have. So I don't know if the chief wants to kind of chime in on that a bit for the code enforcement.
Yeah, well, we're still going to be trying to enforce what we have currently. At the same time, I'm going to be trying to continue to look into changing, or at least presenting it for a possible change of our ordinance to allow where the code enforcement officer can actually issue a citation versus having it come in front of the city council. And I think the big plus to it, there's a lot of cities that are starting to do that, is it puts a little more pressure for them to fix the violations versus the other way. It doesn't really have a lot of backup to push them to do anything. And so a lot of the cities have switched over to the same model that Granger uses. Granger, Zella, Sunnyside use the same model. And in talking to them, it works really well.
I
And
think this would kind of pay for itself, is my understanding.
yes, in talking to the chief from Granger, Aragu, it does at some point start to where it's self-sufficient. It doesn't start eating a lot of money from the general fund. But in talking to the chief from Granger, it really has made a big difference. And they have a pretty good system where it goes into the courts if it needs to, and the courts get involved versus having it come in front of city council where it gets you folks involved. I think seeing how it works in Granger, I think, once I present it to everybody here, you can look it over and see what you think. But that's where I'm leaning towards, to at least visit it. So that's still ongoing.
So you guys have any questions on that?
Yeah, is he still employed with the city of Granger?
Who's that? Ian?
Ian.
No, he's never been employed with the city of Granger to my knowledge.
No,
How didn't you say at one time that he was,
that's a different one. So there was a code enforcement officer here that currently works at Granger, totally different person. This individual had put in for one of the seasonal jobs here, and didn't get it. So he came to mind when we're trying to come up with positions for this. He came to mind, but yeah, he has nothing to do with
okay, I
Granger.
thought he was employed with. the
No,
city of
no, nothing to
Granger.
do with Granger whatsoever.
Because you had mentioned Steve had known him.
No, it's a different individual. I don't think he knows anybody from Granger that I'm aware of, but no, it's totally separate. There was another gentleman that used to be code enforcement here for a short time,
Yeah,
and now he's there full, yes,
That's who I thought
Yeah,
it was.
totally
And
different.
until He came in,
yeah, totally different,
it was a different.
person, yeah.
Okay, I was under the assumption that he was working with the city of Granger
No,
also, and
no.
I go, how are they gonna put
No,
35 here and
no.
35 over there or whatever?
No, but I know, the gentleman you're talking about that used to work here for a short time, I know he's the one that pushed really hard to get that new system they have over there to where the officers can actually write a citation, go to court if you have to. I mean, obviously try to resolve it, by compliance, that's the main goal is if they can comply, great. Nobody wants it to go to court, but knowing that it can go to court, it gets people to comply a little bit better, I think.
Questions?
So are we just gonna do the dogs first? Are we gonna do other things besides just the dog thing?
We're gonna do dogs and code enforcement.
Yeah, we're gonna try to also blend in, kind of have both, because right now there's dogs out there, there's cats, you name it, when I drive around at 1 a.m, they're like packs out there. So I think the idea is to kind of focus on both. His schedule would change, and I think having him work like a Tuesday through Saturday type of schedule, that way, Saturday, a lot of folks are home that are working during the week. And that way, I think we can be a little flexible with the schedule. That way he can maybe one night focus on dogs roaming around at night. I know there's a lot of dogs out there that don't have any collars and they're just out getting in people's garbage cans and you name it. They're out. Yeah, we need to get that under control, I think.
And I also did mention to Public Works, if this was approved, that they would be doing during the week, if he was on during the week, and they would just throw the cage on the back of one of the trucks, and Ian would be the one that would be getting the dog, putting them in the back of the truck, so we can get them hauled off. Because he would be driving the code enforcement vehicle, not a city truck. So, and the city truck is where we need the caging. So I think if the guys were to say, hey, we have dogs over here, they're able to radio them if you all decide to go that way, that you want the code enforcement.
Where are you gonna keep the dogs when they're caught?
So we are gonna haul them to Humane Society.
I thought they weren't taking any for quite a while.
Well, I know they weren't for a while, but I think they didn't want to come into the city, is my understanding. I'm correct.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll get that figured out on what's gonna work, because we're not just gonna have dogs sitting back here. We're not just gonna start collecting dogs. We're gonna have to find a place for them. So we're gonna play that by ear so far, but for now, his primary focus is gonna be code enforcement. And then we're gonna try to keep looking at the dog portion of it. And then once we have a house where we can take them, then we're gonna start collecting, because otherwise we can't house them here, have 10, 20 dogs here. There's no way we can.
Yeah, because they was on the news here last week that Humane Society wasn't taking any more dogs because they were full. A lot of people weren't adopting them like they expected them to do.
Yeah, we can also reach out to Tri-Cities as well,
Yeah, we would obviously have to find a place where we can take them, where somebody can deal with the dogs once we get them. But if we can't find anybody, then we may not be collecting dogs. So that has to be done first. But like I said, the main focus is gonna be code enforcement stuff, vehicles that are sitting out, maybe getting them covered, maybe having to move it to the back of the house where you can't really see them. Just things like that will be the primary focus, and then we can start trying to get the dog catching thing in there at some point.
And get them tagged, right? And tagged.
Yeah, and tagged and licensed.
We'll see how many people claim their dogs first.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we still gotta add on fees and the housing and the food. And I think we've already talked about this at one time, how much we're gonna charge for housing them and daily, just like an inmate. But I don't think anybody will claim them once they've already got, a couple of days.
So that'll be a work in progress on the dog part of it. We'll have to have a good plan. We won't just start picking up dogs until we have a good plan in place.
Any more questions? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and go on to new business. 3, discussion of resolution 2023-11. A resolution authorizing the mayor to sign a contract with Yakima County Technology Services for that which is on page 12 through 30. Do you have any questions on
Is
it?
this a new service that we're getting, or is it one that's prior that we're just renewing it?
Just renewing it. Just renewing it. We've had the same service every year.
That's all I have.
Any questions on it? Okay. We're gonna go ahead, if no one has any further questions, we'll go ahead and go on to B. Discussion of resolution 2023-12. Resolution authorizing the mayor to sign an employment agreement with Brian Sullivan for the position of police officer with the City of Mapleton Police Department, which is on page 31 through 34. And his contract is there. I don't know if y'all have got a chance to look at this, but he would be going to, I'll have you go in on it, Chief.
Yeah, so there's an approximate figure of what it would cost to send them to the police academy. That figure was for Spokane or Seattle. We lucked out and he's got a date for penciled in for Pasco. He lives in the Tri-Cities. So that number is going to be a lot less than that because there isn't going to be any housing involved, meals, things like that. So that number is actually a lot higher. So what it does is after the contract's for 3 years, any expenses that are incurred during the academy, it would have to be actual cost of him being at the academy. We would have to save all receipts, things like that, expenses, copies of all expenses. And then it allows the city to, if he leaves prior to the 3-year, then he would have to retro pay whatever that amount is. There's a formula. And if he stays the whole 3 years, then it wipes out the balance. So the idea is to encourage him to stay with us for 3 years. The problem with departments that are small like Mapton is if you don't have a contract in place, by the time they're out of the academy, they're gone. And Granger was that way. Granger now has the exact same contract. We got a copy from them this is pretty much the same thing that they use, the same contract, and it works really well for them. They've had officers actually stay for the 2 or 3 years. And that's important for Mapton because if we don't have a contract in place before he even gets out of the academy, he'd be gone. We'd be stuck with the bill.
So this isn't the lateral officer that you mentioned before?
No, we're still working on that person on another one for a lateral, but for now, this is all entry level. So.
Is he a police officer or what's he?
He was doing,
or what?
security. He's pretty young. He's, I believe, 23 years old, if I remember right. But he's brand new. His family is associated with law enforcement, and he seems like a very bright individual. I know he almost has his 2-year degree. I think he's like a credit or two away from that. So he's also going to work on that. But very clean record, and looking at his background, I mean, he did really well throughout the whole background, psychological, polygraph, all that stuff, so.
It was that all right.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yep, he passed with flying colors.
Any questions?
What was the set salary for him? Is it on here?
Yeah, I believe it's on there. Is it on?
See it.
I don't know if it's on that one or if it's gonna be, it could be under the union contract. He would be the very first step that has already been established on our contract for the police department. For an officer, he's at the very, very bottom, since he'd be at step 1.
Do we have that step one?
I think that's a good question. I could get back to you with that.
Okay.
I thought we had, no, maybe, I guess we didn't have that in here, but
No, I didn't see it, that's why I'm asking.
it would be the very first step you can possibly, the lowest step you can possibly start as a police officer. And that's based on the contract, that existing contract.
I'll bring this to you right now, when they have a break,
Okay,
and they'll go over that.
yeah, we'll have everybody look at it.
Yeah.
The lowest one.
Doesn't need it.
I thought it was gonna be in here, but maybe not.
I can find it if it was.
It would be under the conditional offer. Do we have a copy of that conditional
I
offer?
do not, I'll get that.
Okay, if we can get a copy of the conditional offer that said in the beginning, hey, you're getting X amount, you have to pass everything, so he's passed everything, and he would start at the very bottom.
I have a question. So what is this amount, approximately from 6,000 to 8,000? What's that for the training? I mean,
That is an estimated cost. It would, to send him to the academy, but that figure is if we were to have sent him to Spokane or Seattle. But Pasco just opened up a brand new academy, and it starts in May, and he's already got his name on there to go to that one. He lives in the Tri-Cities, so it wouldn't cost him any room and board. The figure you're looking at is 6,000 to 8,000. That's room and board in Spokane.
okay,
So the actual figure is way less than that. That's just an estimate.
okay.
So any receipts we save,
That's what we're gonna be paying.
yes, that's what it's not gonna be a lot now that he's going to Pasco. They just opened it's a new class in Pasco. Never had a class there before until May.
Sure.
So he'll be the first one going to that class.
And once we find out how much it is, we'll bring it, we'll let you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, we're gonna save anything, any cost, anything that he has to spend.
Back to the council.
Yeah, we didn't even know that they were gonna have a Pasco Academy until recently, like in the last month.
Anything else?
For the officer, the starting pay is $24.29 an hour.
And that's based on the union contract that was established a year or two ago, I believe.
Okay, so, any more questions on that? So we'll go ahead and, we're not having any executive session, so we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 6:18.
Oh, no. Is there any chance I could just address the city council right now then, for a minute or two?